My husband handed me divorce papers after he inherited over $20 million and told me to leave the house immediately. As I was packing my belongings, my husband yelled, "You're not taking anything from here. Hand over that suitcase." When I refused, my husband's cousins dragged me out of the house by my hair. But before I left, I warned them that they would regret it greatly. What happened next was something they never saw coming. I was halfway through folding my favorite blouse into my old college suitcase when the front door slammed like a gunshot. My husband Derek didn't even remove his Ray-Ban sunglasses as he slid a thick manila envelope across our granite kitchen counter.
"Sign it. Pack up. Get out."
The header read petition for dissolution of marriage. His freshly manicured fingers drummed against the signature line like he was keeping time to my destruction.
"Are you serious right now?"
I whispered, my voice barely audible. "We just buried your great-uncle Harold 3 days ago." "Dead serious," Derek said, his tone colder than December in Minnesota. "And don't get all sentimental on me, Elizabeth. The inheritance cleared this morning.
$22 million. I'm done carrying dead weight."
My marketing consulting business wasn't dead weight. It was my passion, my livelihood. But Derek had never seen it that way. "This is our house too," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We bought this place together in Westchester." "Was our house," he corrected, pulling out his iPhone to record me like I was some kind of criminal.
"Now it's mine.
I'm not negotiating here, Elizabeth. Pack your bags and leave." Behind him, his cousins appeared like vultures circling fresh roadkill. First came Bradley, all CrossFit shoulders and too much Axe body spray. Then came Carson with that permanent smirk that made me want to slap it right off his face. They positioned themselves like bouncers at some exclusive Manhattan club.
Derek pointed at my suitcase.
"She's not taking anything valuable from this house. Hand over that bag." "It's just clothes and my laptop," I protested.
"Personal belongings."
"Losers don't get to keep MacBooks," Carson sneered, that awful grin spreading wider across his face. The smart thing would have been to start recording immediately. Fortunately, I was already there. I'd tapped the voice memo app the second that envelope hit the counter. The red recording dot pulsed steadily, 2 minutes and 18 seconds and counting. "Derek," I tried one last time, softening my voice.
"We've been married for 9 years. I supported you through law school.
I held your hand through your mother's cancer treatments. I cooked meals for Uncle Harold when the chemo made him too weak to eat. You don't have to do this." That earned me laughter, bitter, cruel laughter that echoed off our vaulted ceilings.
"You love giving speeches, don't you?" Derek said.
"Here's mine. You're an embarrassment to my reputation, a drain on my resources, and a liability in every room you enter. Sign the papers, hand over the bag, and walk away with whatever dignity you have left."
I zipped up my suitcase.
That's when things turned violent. Bradley didn't warn me before he grabbed a fistful of my auburn hair and yanked me backward so violently that tears sprang to my eyes.
Carson lunged for my suitcase strap from the side.
My phone clattered across the marble tiles, still recording everything from floor level. "Get her out of here," Derek's voice came through crystal clear.
"She's trespassing now."
"You can't trespass in your own home," I managed to say through gritted teeth, seeing stars from the pain in my scalp. They frog-marched me toward our mahogany front door, my feet barely touching the ground. Mrs. Henderson from next door was walking her golden retriever and looked up in shock, then quickly disappeared behind her manicured hedges. For a split second, I considered fighting back. Then I remembered every domestic violence case I'd seen on the news where one moment of retaliation destroyed the victim's credibility completely.
I didn't fight back.
They threw me onto our brick front steps. My suitcase bounced off my ribs before Carson snatched it away and disappeared back inside.
The door slammed shut. Our new smart lock beeped mockingly.
I sat there alone, tasting blood in my mouth, feeling the fire in my scalp, listening to my own ragged breathing. Derek opened the door just wide enough to kick the divorce papers out after me. "You have exactly 30 minutes to get off my property. After that, I'm calling the police and telling them you're unstable and threatening me.
Make smart choices, Elizabeth."
I pushed myself up, brushed the dirt off my jeans, and looked at all 3 of them framed in the doorway.
Bradley and Carson puffed out their chests.
Derek stood there backlit like some villain in a movie who finally got the role he'd always wanted.
Okay, I said calmly. Here's my speech. I looked each of them directly in the eyes, one by one. You just committed felony assault and battery on video. You also performed an illegal self-help eviction against a co-owner, which violates New York State tenant law. You threatened to file a false police report, and you prevented me from removing my personal property. I'm going to the emergency room. Then I'm filing a police report. Then I'm calling the estate attorney whose name is on your wire transfer, Derek. Derek's jaw twitched slightly. Because you didn't actually read Uncle Harold's will. What will? Bradley asked, like he'd never heard the word before. The one with the morality clause, I said. The one Uncle Harold asked me to proofread before he signed it. The one that freezes all inheritance distributions if the beneficiary engages in criminal behavior or moral turpitude, like assault, fraud, or filing false police reports. Derek's mouth opened, then snapped shut. You're bluffing. I smiled, not friendly, just factual. Then you have absolutely nothing to worry about. I drove straight to Mount Sinai Emergency Room in White Plains. The intake nurse winced when she examined my scalp and immediately called for a physician. I stayed perfectly still for the photographs, asked them to document assault by spouse's relatives at marital residence, and requested copies of everything. Then I stepped outside and called the police non-emergency line, because when you want dominoes to fall in the right order, you don't rush the first one. While sitting in my Toyota Camry in the hospital parking lot, I opened the laptop I kept in my car and drafted 3 emails. To Detective Maria Santos, subject, assault and battery at address, video evidence attached. To my attorney Jennifer Walsh, subject, emergency temporary restraining order plus exclusive use motion. To Harold Blackstone's estate attorney, subject, urgent, potential morality clause violation, beneficiary criminal conduct. I attached the video clip. In the freeze frame, Bradley's fist was clearly visible in my hair, Carson's hands were on my suitcase, and Derek was saying she's trespassing in his own home. I hit send on all 3 emails. Then I checked into a Hampton Inn near the courthouse, set my phantom suitcase down beside the bed out of habit, and laughed once, short and humorless. For the first time all day, I let myself feel everything. Not just the rage, but the grief. 9 years of marriage. Christmas mornings, hospital waiting rooms, ordinary Wednesday nights watching Netflix together. You don't amputate that without some phantom pain. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The second buzz came 30 seconds later from Blackstone Estate Management. I didn't answer that one either. Not yet. There's a rhythm to reclaiming your life. Evidence first, legal action second, consequences that arrive dressed as justice. 2 hours later, my phone lit up with messages. From Jennifer, the video is absolutely damning. Don't contact Derek or his cousins directly. Let me handle everything. We'll file for exclusive use of the residence tomorrow morning. By Friday, police will be knocking on their door, not yours. From Detective Santos, Ms. Cooper, we've reviewed the footage. This is textbook battery. I've dispatched officers to interview your neighbor who witnessed the incident. Criminal charges will be filed. Expect contact from the DA's office. And the most satisfying message of all, from Blackstone Estate Management, Ms. Cooper, this acknowledges receipt of your notice regarding potential morality clause violations. The video evidence you provided is under legal review. Please be advised that all distributions to Mr. Derek Cooper are temporarily suspended pending investigation of alleged misconduct. You will be contacted for additional information. I fell asleep that night with ice packs on my neck and the sweetest dreams I'd had in months. I woke up to my phone buzzing like an angry wasp. Notifications flooded my screen, emails, voicemails, missed calls from the same 3 people who 24 hours earlier had dragged me by my hair out of my own home. The first message was from my attorney Jennifer, Elizabeth, we've got everything we need. The video evidence is rock solid. Don't speak directly to Derek or his cousins under any circumstances. We're filing for exclusive use of the residence this morning. By week's end, they'll be the ones dealing with police, not you. The second was from Detective Santos, Ms. Cooper, we've reviewed all footage and witness statements. This is clear-cut assault and battery. Bradley and Carson Cooper are being charged. The district attorney's office will contact you about victim impact statements. The third message made my heart sing,
from Blackstone Estate Management. Ms. Cooper, this is formal notification that after reviewing submitted evidence, all asset distributions to Derek Cooper are indefinitely frozen per Harold Blackstone's will Section 12C Morality Clause. Criminal behavior by beneficiaries voids inheritance rights. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. By noon, my phone rang with Derek's number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Elizabeth, what the hell did you do? His voice cracked with panic. The estate lawyers froze everything. I can't access a single penny. Do you realize I have a mortgage payment due? Do you understand I had business deals pending? I let him rant for a full minute before responding, calm as glass. Remember what I told you yesterday? That you'd regret this sooner than you thought? Derek, this is just the beginning. You brought every bit of this on yourself. He tried switching tactics, his voice suddenly dripping with fake sweetness. Look, we don't have to go nuclear here. Let's just talk this through like adults. I'll give you a settlement. Whatever you want. Just make this go away. Save it for divorce court, I said, and hung up. That evening, Jennifer called back, barely containing her amusement. Bradley and Carson thought roughing up a woman was no big deal. Unfortunately for them, the district attorney thinks otherwise. They're getting felony charges. And here's the beautiful part, any criminal conviction connected to this case strengthens the morality clause. Derek's inheritance is directly tied to their stupidity. I pictured those arrogant cousins in handcuffs, their swagger completely evaporated. For the first time since this nightmare began, my scalp didn't throb. That night, I sat in my hotel room drafting one more email, not to a lawyer or estate attorney, but to a journalist I'd worked with on some marketing campaigns. Rebecca Chen specialized in exposing wealthy families whose money couldn't hide their moral bankruptcy. I didn't attach the video yet, just teased the story. Westchester man inherits $22 million, within 24 hours, domestic violence, estate freeze, criminal charges. Interested? Her reply came within 5 minutes, tell me absolutely everything. I smiled at my laptop screen. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about ensuring that Derek and his family could never rewrite history to paint themselves as victims. This time, the truth would be loud enough for everyone to hear. 2 weeks later, I walked into Westchester County Courthouse wearing the same calm expression I'd had when Derek's cousins assaulted me. Only this time, the bruises were gone, replaced by a navy blue suit and a briefcase full of ironclad evidence. Derek arrived with Bradley and Carson flanking him, their arrogance somehow still intact despite pending criminal charges. Derek looked smug, like he believed his family money could still erase everything. His attorney whispered something as they sat down, but the confidence in Derek's eyes faltered when he saw the district attorney enter with boxes of evidence files. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Patricia Morrison, stern and no-nonsense, with a reputation for despising theatrics, reviewed her docket. This case involves both criminal assault charges and civil proceedings regarding divorce and property distribution. I understand there are substantial assets at stake. Let's proceed efficiently. Derek's lawyer launched in first. Your Honor, this is nothing more than a vindictive ex-wife attempting to cling to wealth that rightfully belongs to my client through legitimate inheritance. Judge Morrison cut him off. Save your opening statements. Show me evidence. That was our cue. Jennifer stood calmly and activated the courtroom's video system. The screen illuminated with crystal clear footage, Bradley yanking me backward by my hair, Carson grabbing my suitcase, Derek shouting she's trespassing while I clutched my belongings. Audible gasps echoed from the gallery. Even Judge Morrison's eyebrows arched. That's clear assault and battery, she stated flatly. The DA may proceed with criminal charges against both cousins. Bradley muttered profanity under his breath. Carson went pale as milk. Then Jennifer handed Judge Morrison a leather-bound document. Harold Blackstone's complete will and trust agreement, Your Honor. She pointed directly to Section 12C. Moral turpitude resulting in criminal liability immediately suspends beneficiary access to all funds pending trustee investigation. As this court can see, Mr. Cooper's inheritance is currently frozen. Judge Morrison flipped through the pages, nodded approvingly, then looked directly at Derek. You're telling me you filed for divorce the exact day you inherited $22 million, and within 24 hours, your relatives assaulted your wife in your presence, and you want this court to believe you're the victim here?
Derek's attorney stammered incoherently. Derek's lips trembled visibly. That's when I leaned toward Jennifer and whispered. She nodded, then addressed the court. Your Honor, before we conclude, we'd like to submit additional evidence.
A series of voicemails left by Derek Cooper after the estate freeze, where he explicitly admits he only married my client for financial security and intended to abandon her the moment his inheritance arrived. The first recording played, Derek's voice sharp and venomous. I don't need you anymore, Elizabeth.
I've got the money now. You'll be absolutely nothing without me. Nothing. The courtroom went completely silent. Judge Morrison leaned forward, fingers steepled. Well, Mr. Cooper, you've certainly made my decision easier. Her gavel cracked like thunder.
Temporary exclusive possession of the marital residence awarded to Elizabeth Cooper. Inheritance funds remain frozen pending trustee final determination. Criminal proceedings against Bradley and Carson Cooper to proceed immediately.
Court is adjourned.
As I walked out of that courtroom, Derek's lawyer shouted after us, "This isn't over."
But Derek wasn't even looking at me anymore.
He was staring at the floor, finally realizing the life he'd built on arrogance was collapsing faster than he could stop it.
And I hadn't even played my final card yet. The courtroom victory felt satisfying, but it wasn't enough.
Derek and his family still believed they could hide behind money, silence the story, and eventually bounce back. What they didn't realize was that I had already taken this fight far beyond the courthouse walls. 3 nights earlier, I'd met with Rebecca Chin, the investigative journalist who specialized in exposing the dark underbelly of wealthy families. She'd listened intently as I laid out everything, the trust documents, the assault video, Derek's recorded confessions. Her pen scratched across her notepad as she nodded slowly.
Elizabeth, this isn't just a domestic scandal, Rebecca said finally. This is about greed, abuse of power, and entitlement. Readers will devour this story.
We'd agreed on one condition: she wouldn't publish anything until after the initial court ruling to avoid jeopardizing the legal proceedings.
Now, with the ruling secured, she was ready to move.
The morning after court, while Derek's attorney scrambled to file desperate appeals, the story broke. Westchester heir faces fraud and domestic violence allegations after $22 million inheritance windfall.
The article was devastating.
It detailed everything: the assault, the trust clause freezing his inheritance, his recorded threats, the courtroom humiliation.
Screenshots from the video were strategically blurred but completely recognizable.
My name remained discreet, but anyone in Westchester County knew exactly who Derek Cooper was. Within hours, his face was plastered across news websites and trending on Twitter.
The comments were ruthless. How do you inherit millions and still end up in court for assault? That voicemail is absolutely chilling. He deserves to lose everything. Imagine treating your wife like garbage while living off his uncle's money.
Derek's carefully cultivated image, the successful attorney, the charming socialite, evaporated overnight. By afternoon, his law firm announced he was on indefinite administrative leave pending investigation.
Country club memberships were revoked. Invitations to charity galas were rescinded. Bradley and Carson weren't spared either. Local radio shows mocked them as trust fund thugs.
The DA publicly confirmed their criminal charges, and memes of them dragging me from my own house spread across social media.
Derek's mother tried defending her son in a desperate TV interview.
But when the anchor played the voicemail clip, even she looked like she'd swallowed broken glass.
I didn't gloat publicly, that wasn't my style.
Instead, I focused on rebuilding, spending evenings with friends who actually respected me, volunteering at the women's shelter where I'd found refuge during the darkest nights.
Because revenge isn't always about shouting, "I won."
Sometimes it's about watching your enemies collapse under the weight of their own arrogance while ensuring the world witnesses every crack in their facade.
The best part? The story wasn't finished yet. Harold Blackstone's board of trustees had reached out privately.
They wanted to discuss who was truly qualified to manage the estate now that Derek had completely disgraced himself and the family name. The media firestorm had left Derek and his cousins reeling, but the trustees' meeting would determine the ultimate fate of Harold's fortune. This was the real battlefield where everything would be decided. The trustees' office was an elegant wood-paneled room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. 4 distinguished individuals sat across from me, Harold's longtime friends and business associates who had watched me work quietly beside him for years during family gatherings and business meetings.
Mr. Wellington, the lead trustee, leaned forward. Elizabeth, we've been thoroughly reviewing this situation. The clause Derek overlooked, Section 15 of Harold's will, makes everything crystal clear. Assets cannot be transferred to any heir who engages in criminal behavior or gross moral misconduct. He tapped the thick folder before him. The courts have officially recognized his behavior as domestic abuse. The media coverage has destroyed any semblance of family honor. That leaves us with a critical decision about who should manage these assets now. For a moment, I thought they might ask me to help oversee things temporarily. Then Mrs. Patterson, the trustee with penetrating gray eyes, slid a leather portfolio across the mahogany table. We've also reviewed your background extensively, Elizabeth. Your marketing expertise, your years working alongside Harold, your impeccable character. Harold respected you immensely. We all witnessed that. I opened the portfolio. It was an executive appointment contract. They weren't just freezing Derek's inheritance, they were offering me operational control of the entire Blackstone real estate empire, assets worth over $180 million. Harold always said you had better business instincts than Derek ever would, Mr. Wellington continued. Recent events have proven him absolutely right. By the time Derek learned about the decision, the formal press release had already gone public. He stormed into the trustees' building 2 hours later, news cameras following his every move, screaming about conspiracies and theft. Bradley and Carson tried muscling past security, but their court-ordered ankle monitors made the reporters laugh even harder. When Derek finally reached the boardroom, he pointed at me with shaking hands. You stole everything from me. I stood calmly, cameras recording every word. No, Derek. You threw it all away the day you thought money made you untouchable. His face contorted with rage, screams echoing through the marble corridors while I quietly walked past the cameras as the new CEO of the empire he believed was his birthright. That evening, standing in the penthouse office Derek had once bragged about inheriting, I felt no triumph, just profound clarity. Greed, arrogance, and cruelty had taken everything from him. All I'd done was hold up a mirror and let the world see who he really was. Epilogue, the final curtain. Months passed. The scandal faded from headlines, but not from consequences. Derek's criminal record barred him from practicing law. Former friends avoided him completely. Bradley and Carson, bitter and broke after serving jail time, cut him off entirely. The Westchester mansion he'd flaunted on social media was foreclosed. He ended up in a studio apartment in Queens, occasionally spotted at discount stores by people who remembered the heir who lost everything. Meanwhile, I quietly rebuilt not just my life, but something meaningful. Running the Blackstone empire wasn't about personal wealth, it was about honor. I established scholarships in Harold's name, funded community housing projects, and hired people Derek's family had once dismissed. Most importantly, I found peace. No more walking on eggshells, no more emotional abuse disguised as marriage. One evening at a charity gala I hosted, I noticed a figure lingering outside the glass windows. Derek stood there in a wrinkled coat, staring at the life he'd thrown away. When our eyes met, his were hollow, pleading silently for recognition or forgiveness. I simply turned back to my guests and raised a toast. Derek had wanted wealth, power, and freedom from responsibility. Instead, he was left with poverty, shame, and regret. And me? I had everything his money could never buy: respect, purpose, and genuine peace. Sometimes justice doesn't come with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it arrives quietly, wearing work clothes, carrying evidence, and speaking truth to power. Was this revenge perfectly justified? You decide.